This is day one. I'm starting my public speaking journal here, and something I wanted to work on. I've always had issues with, uh, in the past, I've had issues with speaking publicly, and I think a lot of it had to do with females. I was always worried what women would think of me, and you know, I wasn't raised around a lot of women. It was just my dad and I. I did have a stepmom for a while, but I hated her. Um, she was just doing the best she could, and she actually cared. But you know, I used to get really nervous. I was always a class clown, and then when it came time to do something serious or a presentation, I would get really bright red. I would get really shaky, and I almost felt like I was going to pass out. And and that's kind of carried on my whole life until I get comfortable in the setting and I get comfortable with people, and then the real me comes out. And the real me can be a little bit much sometimes, so I got to keep me in check. I do. I do want to practice on this. This is something I look forward to getting as I'm renewing myself on this path of betterness. If that's a word. And I'm really grateful for a program of action. I've had a lot of ups, a lot of downs in my life, a lot more downs than ups, and I probably shouldn't be here speaking with you all today. I don't question whether or not there's a God due to some many multiple near death experiences in my life. And, everything in my life I did out of fear. Fear of people not liking me, fear of not getting something, fear of not getting high or drunk, fear of not being accepted. And I didn't really care about the consequences as much as I did about you guys or people not accepting me. You know, I've always been a chameleon. I grew up I grew up playing drums. My dad was a drummer. He played in bars. Was always drinking. My dad's an alcoholic, and I can always remember him coming home late, and I was always curious what he was up to. I can remember, sneaking over to his room, brought someone home, and I was, listening, curious what the heck is going on in there. Are they fighting? And they weren't fighting, but you know, um, so I saw that a lot growing up. And then my dad and I moved around a lot. He was always drunk, and then he wasn't. My dad was a binge drinker, and if anyone knows what that's like, it's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And he always felt really remorseful when he was back to Dr. Jekyll, and when he was Mr. Hyde, he was very confrontational. He was very wasn't abusive, but it just wasn't my dad. And so the next morning or after the binge, he would feel remorseful, and I prayed on that. I prayed on the fact that I could do whatever I wanted because I knew that my dad would feel bad about the way he had acted and probably didn't remember what he did, the previous days. So I was always getting suspended, expelled from school, hung out with older crowds, was always doing the most. Uh, when I didn't want to go to school, I didn't go. And I took my first trip to juvenile hall when I was 16 and actually 17. I transferred from junior hall into county jail, 17 to 18. There was a program at Theo Lacey, and I remember doing that transfer and thinking, I've arrived, you know? I listened to rap music growing up, and I always thought it was cool, going to jail. Um, I got out. I went, ran amok for a while. Started doing, drugs that I thought I would never do. Meth being one of them. And I didn't know my mother because she was a meth addict. And she left at 3 when I was 3. And my dad said, "You'll never see your son again." He came home one day and all of his stuff was gone. And he went to the Connects and my mom was there with me. And he grabbed me and his stuff. And I didn't see my mom again until I was about 5 years old. And when I saw her when I was 5, she had married or was with a Connect, a cook. My dad tells me later, but I can remember him beating the shit out of her, and the cops came and my dad said once again, you fucked up and you're not going to see your son again. And as the years went down, I started using that excuse for not knowing my mother as that resentment and that self-pity that I got and the pity from other people as an excuse to do whatever I wanted. Plus my dad was drunk. And we didn't live in a bad environment, a bad area. My dad had moved us to Mission Viejo, California. He got a really good job, married a lady, and then she divorced him because of his drinking. And I stayed in that house. My dad was at work a lot, and I was always home alone. I had the party house, the house that everyone went to at lunch, and everyone back at school went back to school, and I stayed home and, got fucked up. I mean, that's just what I did. So I think I was 16 running amok with some uh, Aryan individuals, and I never much agreed with their belief system. But I did like the appeal of that lifestyle. And some dudes that just paroled out of prison, kind of, I had a car, and I remember them taking me to this house one night and saying, "Look, homeboy, you're gonna get high the right way tonight." And I had this feeling of fear and excitement, and that anxiety. Just give me your arm, and they stuck a needle in my arm, and maybe a minute later, cops pulled up in the driveway. We hit the back fences and just started running. And Chopper was out, and I can remember all of this going through this little ravine right there on Los Alisos, and I thought, fuck, this is like a fucking movie, right? Like, this shit is exciting. And after running and hiding in bushes and doing all sorts of crazy shit, we get back to the house, and the girl at the house goes, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, we had all seen the same thing, right? And she's like, "There was no cop that pulled in the driveway. I don't know what you guys are talking about." So, automatically we think that she was a snitch or something like that. I forgot. But so that just progressed through my life. These individuals, these people I surrounded myself with, always in higher positions of power or whatever, and I looked up to them, and I did whatever I could to be second to them. And I knew they always had drugs, and I idolized individuals like that. All the way up to the end of my runs, I've always placed myself next to people who are in a street mentality doing shit, right? But I'm never doing shit for myself, you know? And I have all these talents and abilities, but yet I just can't seem to do anything for myself. But if it's for them, I'll bend over backwards, I'll sacrifice everything. And there's motives behind that. I think it's for clout or for there's this need or desire to please somebody who has something that I want, right? Just to back it up, so I've been out in Arizona. I try to get sober. I try to do a lot of self-help, uh, books and little seminars, and then I worked for a company called Trader Joe's for about 2.5, 3 years. I was in beginning stages of management there, and I met a girl at work. We moved in, and she, poor thing, she was a really good girl, homeschooled till 11th grade, and I can remember the first time I told her I'd relapsed, and I told her, look, I have a problem with meth. I like to use meth, and she goes, I'm so sorry. She goes, what is meth? And I was just like, God damn. Excuse my language. um, here I am, just victimizing somebody else, and it's just one of the many victims in my life that have been fooled by the chameleon. I can present myself really well, um, and then tear it all down in a series of sprees, and they're like, who is this monster? So her and I lasted for, I think we were together for like 2.5 years. And I can remember the final time that she kicked me out of the apartment. She had opened a safe that I had, and I was holding onto a gun from, another individual in my life who I idolized. And I was holding all of his dope and a lot of cash and stuff in the safe. And she opened it up, and she's like, who the fuck are you? Like, this is not the man that I met. And, you know, I hurt my pride and my ego. Um, but also at the same time, the people that I was hanging out with on the side were like, fuck that chick. You don't need her, and fuck Trader Joe's. You don't need Trader Joe's, let's. So I left that apartment I got on the interstate and I started moving stuff from Arizona. I'm not going to go into detail, but moving stuff from Arizona into Nebraska, and I was taking these trips, and I was getting paid a decent amount of money, and I started having my own loads go up there, and I ended up one of the trips getting pulled over, and yeah, they confiscated $112,000 in cash. I didn't have any drugs on us at the time, but I remember a U.S. Marshal came out and asked us when we all had matching stories, why we were up there, and the U.S. Marshal said, I know why you guys are up here. Okay, it's all bullshit, the story that you guys have. And he pointed out the window to a Tahoe that was up there, and he said, look, some guys are up here from Phoenix doing exactly what I think you guys are doing, and they all got burned alive in a bad drug deal, and that's how I got that Tahoe. It was theirs, and they didn't get burned alive in the Tahoe or whatever, but you know, that didn't fear me up at all. Things have been said to me my whole life. I've been stabbed in the neck. I got stabbed in my jugular. Had best friends shot next to me in Arizona, and been shot at plenty of times. And I don't say that to sound cool or anything. I just hope that when I share that, people can identify with all the crazy things that they've been through in their lives, that they have been saved from, and that those things, when I look back, have helped me realize that there is a higher power, that there is a God, there is something that has been saving me from all of these situations. When I've arrived in the hospital and they said, you're a miracle, you should have died, and still, that wasn't enough for me, and talks about in the book that frothy emotional appeal will seldom suffice. That the message that for the alcoholic or addict must have depth and weight, and um, people telling me that, Adam, you're so talented. Adam, you're a great guy. People like you, and you have a lot of potential, and all those things are great, and people have the best of intentions when they tell you those things, but those things I just took with a grain of salt. I didn't really believe a lot of people when they said that, and a lot of times when people told me that, it gave me a lot of anxiety because I felt like I wasn't living up to other people's standards, you know. And so I left Arizona. I think I was there for about 10 years, and I left Tucson, Arizona, and went to my dad's. Something had happened, something I'm not going to go into, but I was in another bad situation. Something happened, and once again, I was in fear, and I went to my dad's, and my dad was in Livermore, and he was still drinking, living up there in Northern California, and I can remember him trying to quit drinking, and I thought, well, I don't have a problem with alcohol, so I'm bringing in, alcohol, putting it in the fridge, bringing, you know, females back to the house, and just once again, taking advantage of a situation with my dad. And, that's something I had to make amends for. I didn't notice it at the time that I was being, I wasn't helping any situations. I wasn't helping my dad. I wasn't helping myself. And my dad told me, look, Adam, you're not helping yourself. You got to leave. And so I said, okay, what's the next bridge that I can burn? And I reached out to a stepsister that I had, and she was actually somebody who I first started doing drugs with, like acid. She sold acid and stuff, and I used to go down to Oceanside when I was a kid and hang out with her, and I hadn't talked to her in a long time. And I reached out to her, and she said, yeah, bro, she was drunk, I could tell on the phone, and she said, come down here, bro, well, I can't wait to catch up. And I was like, cool, fuck you, Dad, I'm gone, and I went down there to, she was in Ontario, California. I went down there, and it was cool. It was cool to reunite. We started killing like a 30-pack every night. Doing the whole brother sister reunited thing, and I can remember her husband like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? This is like an everyday party," and he started getting a little upset at the fact that we were drinking every night and being loud. And I got a little job at the Ontario Mills Mall, and my buddies from Arizona were going to be out in San Diego for a weekend right there in Mission Beach, and me always having to be a part of, and I went out there. It was like 2 days before Christmas. I went out there and I got so drunk. I brought this girl down, poor thing. I brought this girl down from high school. Who I need to make amends to. I just remembered, and um, I just got drunk and started talking shit to her, like, just, I don't know why. I was just, I'd always been so resentful at women, in my life, mostly because of my mother, and I started talking shit. I started, saying, why don't you, trying to hook her up with my buddy, my younger buddy, and she's like, why are you doing this to me? She ended up hooking up with my younger buddy. And then they ended up going in her purse and taking like one of her grandma's wedding rings and all this shit, right? And so she goes back to Orange County and tells everyone in high school, yeah, I went and saw Adam, and he's hanging out with a group of thugs, and they stole stuff from me, and that's pretty fucked up. But that's just what I do when I'm loaded. I'm always trying to please other people at the expense of other people. And went back, my sister was upset that I didn't come back that weekend, and she brought all my stuff. She went on Google Maps, found where I was, brought all my stuff, dropped it off, and said that you can't come back. And she said, you've abused the privileges. And so I went back to Arizona, and this is a place that I was in fear for my life. I had done some things there that I was scared of, and so I went back there, and I was just constantly paranoid. I started tweaking again. I was just paranoid out of my mind. And I called my brother. I have a half-brother from my mother who I never really knew, and I knew he lived in Ocean Beach. And once again, I'm trying to get back to California, right? Get out of Arizona. And I went out there. He's like, you can come live on my boat, I'm thinking, cool. I was like, thinking in my head, he's got this yacht. I'll go live on the yacht. And I get out there, and it's I think I got out there, actually. I was only in Arizona for a couple days. I got out there back because I knew I was facing a lot of crazy shit in Arizona. And I got there and saw my brother, and he goes, cool, we went out to eat, and he goes, so I'll take you to the boat. And we went out, and we go out to this marina. I'm like looking around for this yacht, and we get up to the dock, and he points down, and I look down at there's a kayak floating there. I'm thinking, what the fuck, kayak? He goes, you see all the way out there, there's that little dinghy out there. Yeah, you're gonna stay in there. You'll have to kayak back every morning. And I thought, oh fuck, I always have these visions and expectations on what people are going to do for me in my life. And, I notice when I do that, um, things don't usually turn out the way I want them to. It only leads to resentment. But, I kayaked out there. I did that for a little while, and I did okay in San Diego, but I was still drinking a lot. I wasn't doing meth. I wasn't doing the other stuff. I was drinking a lot, partying every night. I was constantly broke. But I had some fun. I'm not gonna lie. I had fun in San Diego. I ended up moving into where my brother was staying in Ocean Beach in this place, and renting a room from another guy who was an alcoholic, and he was a Marine, I guess, and one night I was talking to him about something, and he called me a name, and those belief systems from being incarcerated, and belief systems from running with individuals who are very prideful and don't let anybody say anything to them, and I was offended, and I ended up you know putting hands on that individual, and he kicked me out, and rightfully so. And here I am, again in this dilemma, and I'm thinking, what the fuck am I gonna do? So I went back to Arizona, um, and I was out there for I think another 2 years, 3 years, and I was working, getting loaded, um, you know, miserable, and I got this addiction to, and I started selling these opiates, these little blue pills. I don't need to go into detail, but I used to just sell them, and I had a toothache one day, and I took one of those pills, and I loved the way it made me feel. I felt it made me work better. I felt it made you like me better, right? It made me like me better, and this head just quieted for a little bit, and I heard that a lot in the rooms, and I can totally relate to this ongoing dialogue, or a couple dialogues going on at once. Um, and so there's a part in the book that talks about a guy who, in the insanity of putting a shot of whiskey inside of a glass of milk, and that's just paraphrasing it, but when I first read the book, I thought, I've never done that. But then as I looked back, and I started this opiate addiction, that was exactly what I did with opiates and with pills. Was that the insanity was is that if I knew that meth made me too much, right, too extra. Um, didn't sleep, I didn't eat, but I thought if I did these pills inside of the meth, right, um, it would balance me out, and I was always looking for a balance in my life, and I thought I had found it. And that, as my addiction progressed, my alcoholism progressed, I just became miserable quicker. And so once again, I did the geographical switch, and I went. I've always wanted to go back to Orange County, right? And I mean, it's where I grew up, but I don't know if anyone's ever lived in Orange County, but it's really difficult in southern Orange County to be homeless. So I ended up going back and trying the homeless thing out there. I burned a couple bridges before that, and to get over there, right? I get a bridge over there, and then I burn it, and another geographical switch, and there I am. No matter where I go, there I am. And I caught 3 cases in a matter of a month, just possession charges, and I ended up in a program called drug court. And drug court was good. That was what introduced me to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember first reading the big book, and I remember my dad going to meetings, and they didn't work for him, but that wasn't because the meetings don't work. It's just that my dad wasn't willing to work the program. Come to find out later on. So I'm starting to hear some things in these meetings. I'm starting to identify a little bit, but I can't identify with this book that's written in 1939, right? Like, what the fuck do these guys know about what I do, right? Um, and somebody came to me and told me, when the guy who wrote this book, or one of the co-founders, when he was drinking, um, some of that time was when alcohol was illegal, and it was kind of like a drug, right? And that helped me identify, And then he told me to, take the word alcohol and write meth or women or whatever you want there, whatever you feel is your DOC, and drink or drug of choice, and because all of it doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter what I used, it doesn't matter if I drank alcohol or if I, my drink of choice happens to come in a spoon and a syringe, and I started seeing that common peril, that loneliness, despair, that desperation, that need for a change, and yeah, so I started getting a little bit on fire about this, thinking that cool. Now that they've told me a couple things about myself, that should be enough. Now I'll just remember next time, not to do those things. And I was in drug courts, an 18-month program. I was in it for 3.5 years. And I ended up getting kicked out, just because I couldn't submit, I couldn't surrender to this simple program of action. And I had gotten extradited like 2 months in to drug court for something that had happened in Arizona. And I remember when I went to do an overnight sanction for relapse, they told me, you have a hold in Arizona. And I asked for what? And they said, conspiracy. Mind you, I had done something in Arizona pretty serious, and I was just boom, boom, boom. My heart dropped, and I thought for sure they found out. And so I waited a month for an extradition. On the last day that they had to hold me there, they put me out with the releases, and they dressed me out, and they said, everyone's like, you're going home, bro, we're all going home. And I was like, cool, I'm going home, excited. And as soon as they popped those doors, they slapped my picture on the window behind me, and they said, Lipscomb, this way. Yeah, that's my last name. And unfortunately, but and I went in that holding cell, and I just stressed for a good 12 hours until transfer guard came in, and he said, look, do you smoke cigarettes? I said, yeah. And he said, well, if you're good, you'll get some along the way, but we're taking a 5-day extradition across the Southwest. And I was like, okay. And this whole time I didn't know what was going on. I had somewhat of a belief in God, at this time, but I had this letter with me from drug court saying, look, Adam has completed a 90-day program. We highly recommend he returns as soon as possible back to this program. It's highly effective. And I went out there, and as I was getting arraigned, I guess I had sold 300 of those pills to an undercover or informant. And yeah. And so they were trying to hit me with 12 years out there. And that letter saved my ass. They said if you can remain, you have 2 years probation out here, you get interstate compact, you go back out there, and um, you know, complete the program, then you'll be good. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I can't fuck this up. You know, I went on interstate compact, came back to drug court. Everyone was glad to see me back, almost everybody, and I started doing anything and everything that they couldn't test for. I started a GHB habit. It made me feel um, 20 feet tall and confident, and I was pulling all sorts of chicks, and my sales were through the roof right at work, and doing all this stuff, right? And that drug's like, they call it a day rape drug, and if you dose too much of it, you fall out. And I chipped my teeth here. I was falling out at work. One minute I'm on top of the world, the next minute I'm under the desk, and everyone's noticing, like, what the fuck is wrong with Adam, right? And so I started passing out in random places. I can remember sleeping with chicks, and I'm sorry to be effort, but like waking up and they'd be like, and they're gone, and I'm like, what happened? They're like, you just passed out, and I'm like, oh, fuck, like, and so, and that was happening, I'd be talking to somebody and just boom, it's not a nod out, it's an actual, you just fall, hit the floor. And it's really odd if I'm sure I've never really witnessed it other than myself, waking up in the hospital and things like that. But that went on for a while, and I kept just moving around, moving around. I probably went to over 15 sober livings. I couldn't get this thing. I'd have sponsors after sponsors, and I'm definitely a retread through this program multiple times. And I thought maybe, after my probation had expired in Arizona, and they kind of knew what was going on, in drug court. A group of females had gotten together who had, done wrong, a few of them, and they got together and they were like, fuck Adam. You know what I mean? Fuck this dude, right? Rightfully so. And they told him what I was doing, and they kicked me out of that drug court. They couldn't prove anything because you couldn't test for it, but they kicked me out. And I didn't really care because my probation was done, and I wanted to be done with drug court now that, Arizona's off my back, and so I went and did my time. I did 6 months, and I got out and I got back into the rooms. I got a sponsor. I went to some hardcore AA places down there in Anaheim, Costa Mesa area, a place called the Third Step House, and we used to do these intense readings. Wake up in the morning, ask God to direct our thinking and our thoughts, be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motives. Read pages 60 to 63, 76, 84 through 89. Do a third and seventh step prayer and leave the house with the thought of thy will be done. And I resented having to say that, right? Every time I shared. But I'll tell you, like, looking back at it, the seeds were definitely planted, and there's some really good stuff on those pages. And the reason that we're saying that I see now is because we're letting the newcomer know, what we did that day to stay sober. And we really did those things. I don't do those today, but I do have a daily reprieve. I do have a morning meditation, and I went back out several times after that. Homeless. I no longer, when I relapse, I no longer have fun. It's no longer hotel rooms and needles and getting weird. It's really right to homelessness, and it's right into that loneliness and despair, and around a host of fair weather friends. And I got stabbed in the neck in Rialto. I think I shared that, and I had an overwhelming sense of God. The individual's friend who stabbed me was praying over me, but he wouldn't call the ambulance. And this other girl was right there holding my neck and crying, and I was so at peace. I remember him praying, and I felt God just come and grab me, and I was okay with dying at that point, believe it or not, And the security guard from across the way in the shopping center saw the blood from all the way across the street and called the paramedics. They came after 14 minutes. They said I should have bled out a lot sooner than that. But I didn't, because God was there, And that's kind of the only reason I share incidences like that, because I want to give God the credit for where he showed up in my life. And, he definitely came for a misled, misfed, misfit. And I say that there he appeared in the midst of the mischief. Now I see clear, but back then I must have missed it. And there's no other way that I can thank him for it than doing the work and pressing toward. When I was lost, he set me on course, and he guided my ship through the pain and the storm. And it's just something I wrote. But, there's got to be a reason that God has saved me from all these things. And Alcoholics Anonymous has given me that purpose. I went back out a couple times, lived with a couple more power-hungry individuals, that sold a lot of drugs and had me doing a lot of favors and things for them, running this there, running that there. And I can just remember people yelling at me in this last house I was at. And there were, a lot of homies there, a lot of gang members, and everyone was just yelling, Adam, come over here, Adam, Adam. And I was thinking, this is not me, And nothing was working for me, And they say, you're responsible for what you allow in your life. And I was allowing these things to happen, And so I made a decision to go to MFI. I went to MFI detox, and I kicked fentanyl. It was probably the hardest thing that I've probably ever been through in my life. A lot worse than any of the other stuff. That was like another demon, and something, God willing, I'll never have to do again. And I had gotten on Matt's services, and then I went to Whiteside, and I decided, I used to shoot Suboxone while I was in drug court, and I was thinking, I don't want to. I'm trying to avoid these pitfalls if they come, right? So I got off the Suboxone, and I'm not knocking anybody if they take Suboxone. Um, but as soon as I got off of those Suboxone, and I had to do another kick, and it was like my view broadened, right? Like my whole spectrum. Like I didn't realize that it was dampening my thoughts, and man, and ever since then, I remember just praying for God to keep me willing, to keep me vulnerable, to keep me aligned with His will for my life, and I can remember the word daily reprieve sticking out to me constantly, and I looked that word up, reprieve, and it says a reprieve is a delay in punishment. That's the definition I choose to keep in the forefront of my mind today. You know, um, it's a delay in punishment for me. And I can arrest that punishment as long as I remain willing to do this daily, right? As long as I remain willing to learn, as long as I remain to or try to practice humility and have a constant thought of others, and put their needs before mine. As long as I'm willing to reach out to the next guy, as long as I'm willing to reach out to the guy ahead of me and ask for some simple direction or suggestion. And yeah, it's just a one day at a time program. There's a lot of cliches in here that I didn't like, right? I never liked the cliche, easy does it. I thought it came from a different program. And then, as soon as I say some things, I'm opening up the 24-hour day, and there it is, easy does it, but do it, and it's just perfect. That's exactly how I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to take it easy, but make sure that I do it. Um, I've been a procrastinator my whole life, and it's only built up more anxiety, more fear. The more I put things off, today I just trust in God and then go tackle what He lays in front of me. And I'm going to wrap this up. I really just did this to try to practice some public speaking, try to share my story. I didn't realize it was going to take 37 minutes of my time. But good job, Adam, and thank you.